Somebody's Daughter is a true crime podcast brought to you by Origins Australia, supporting people separated by adoption. It contains distressing material that some listeners may find triggering and is unsuitable for children. The producers respect the traditional owners of the land on which it was recorded and pay their respects to Aboriginal elders, past, present and emerging. Today on our final episode of the season, we resume our conversation with Queensland adoptee Michael Costello, whose quest to unravel the truth behind his horrific childhood has left him with more questions than answers. We hear how, after reuniting with his mum, they embarked on a fight to turn back the clock, overcoming a mountain of red tape in order to be legally recognised as mother and son again.
Michael, you told us last week that after finally meeting your mother, you embarked on a quest for the truth about your adoption.
She met some really powerful women in her life and again started to understand more about forced adoption.
Right.
One of the important people in my life is one of those women, Marg. She's passed away since. Again, another mother we've lost whose wishes for her healing have gone unheard. And, you know, she was my first Lily.
Okay.
She was the one who could see the fire in me. She was the one in the group, apart from my mother. And again, the other woman had passed away as well. My mum's the only one really left now from those women. And she was the one who started the fire. Yeah. And these women got gardens and plaques and what have you within the beginnings of forced adoption space. And I'm very much an advocate of what where we're at now.
So did she encourage you, or was that something in you that you wanted to start to get answers?
I didn't know what I wanted.
Yeah.
And she didn't know what she wanted, and she wanted to show off this trophy. Look at my son. And she had adopted 2 other children, and it went a little bit pear-shaped. Fortunately, I have connected and close to my sister, who's now legally my sister. Okay. The other adopted child, the other child, no. Okay. It didn't work out well for her relationship with them, but my sister and I are close, and she's adopted, so we, again, have an unspoken language. Do. She is raising a child by herself, and I'm able to say, stop it, stop being supermum, stop bringing your baggage from your childhood to this. He gets amazing report cards, you're an amazing mother. You know, I have to constantly reel her in to say, hey, where we are trying to build this relationship, she has this massive party for me.
The sister, the mother?
The mother.
Yes.
To introduce me to all of this family.
Right, okay.
I meet my grandmother, who was the one who didn't want her back in the house. I got to meet my grandfather. He passed away very quickly, and my grandmother is dead now as well. The other 2 sisters are still alive. They have children, and one of them is called Michael, which hurts my mother because I was the Michael, and
oh yes,
so. There's a lot of pain. She has a lot of pain. I have a lot of pain, and there we are, these 2 pain-ridden people trying to work out how
to navigate,
do this. And it's not easy. And I lived in London, and she came to visit, and I wasn't in a good headspace. And I said, we're not being honest with each other. I had questions about who my father was, and it was too painful. And I said, let's take a break. I broke up that 14-year relationship, went through all of that trauma, met a new partner. The new partner says, I want to meet your mum. I reconnect with her. 2016, I'm living in New York, and she says, there's a thing where you can be legally my son. Would you like to be legally my son? And I go, I don't need a piece of paper. She needed a piece of paper.
Of course she needed to know the evidence.
So we embark on trying to find out what you need to do that. Another thing that other people have made possible for me in this journey of understanding, you know, she got very involved in the forced adoption thing from a distance with these other women to try and push for different things. Their rights, they are broken and very painful experience. So I've been on the peripheral of this for a very long time, watching the forced adoption community.
Terrible.
And particularly women and other adoptees. You know, when you meet them, regardless of whether they're part of the forced adoption or just regular adoption, there is a shared pain that we speak without saying.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Whether you've had a happy home or not,
there
is a shared thing of, am I enough? There's a shared thing of who's going to reject me. There is a shared language that we don't even need. We can just
I think
tell.
Moses Farrow touched on that with his own siblings. He said there was just that knowing. And so did you change your birth certificate?
No. I was able to do that through the Supreme Court. I can go into the legal stuff now if you want.
Well, I wanted you to talk about the questions that Moyra's been dying to ask was, didn't anyone know what was going on? And it's in the quest for the truth that you start to find out in dribs and drabs, because they're not really being very helpful about providing that information.
I always knew my story. I always knew about this woman who adopted me. I always knew it. I grew up with her, in and out of psych wards, missing for long periods of time, sedated, psychiatrists, nurses, doctors, hospitals, police. This was my childhood. To me, that was my normal world. Children running away from the home that I lived in, sexual abuse, violence. This was my life. When my mother said in 2016, hey, you can be legally mined. And I said, I need a piece of paper. And then I was like, you need a piece of paper.
Yeah, sure.
We need a piece of paper.
Yeah.
What do I have to do?
Yeah.
She did all the groundwork to find out what that was. And I used to say I was really stupid. And I'm not stupid. I'm not the smartest boy in the world, but I'm not stupid. What has happened with me is I was gullible and trusting. And that has been exploited to a level that is so shameful. And I say I have had an unwelcomed education in the political and judicial systems of governance in Australia. This is the beginning of me trying to be legally recognised and I call it going back to original recipe me. Like I said, I've always been Michael. And if we went through this process in the Supreme Court, which is called an adoption order discharge, it's bizarre that I have to go to a court to do that.
But you did do that. What year did you do
2018.
that? So you went to have your adoption order discharged by the Supreme Court, so you'd officially be
mother
and son again.
We'll just go back to the original setting.
Yeah.
The factory setting. Before anybody removed anybody. My mother didn't see me when she gave birth. She didn't hold me.
No.
She didn't even know if I was alive. Unfortunately, one nurse told her that I was a long, skinny streak with crooked fingers. And as many mothers will tell you, they search the world.
Well, yeah, they do.
Looking for that child.
They do.
Every crowd.
They're looking for their child.
Yeah.
Every pram, she looked for these crooked fingers.
On every bus and every train.
Every bus and every train.
So you legally have to go and get the adoption revoked.
Yes. If I want to change my sex in Queensland, it's a stamp. And this will resonate with a lot of people.
Yes.
I will never, ever have agency over the decisions others have made for me.
No.
And it was incredibly obvious at the Supreme Court. There I was. I didn't even sit in the court. I sat in the gallery, and I was actually asked to leave the court because it was a closed court, and they had to say, oh no, he's part of the thing.
He's actually the thing.
Yes.
So while we can't go into any evidence, because obviously that was heard behind closed doors, can we chat a little about the information you were able to obtain from the Department of Child Safety in relation to your adoption? There were so many obstacles for you to have to leap to get that information. What was that fight like?
I was going to a special department within the government, within the department, and they actually have the word care in their name. So I'm going to the fluffy, carey department that helps people who are adopted. Emphasis on the word care.
Care, yeah.
So we're setting me up for an idea and an expectation about the process. And I'm like, oh, wow, these people are here to help me. Yeah. So I'm at one of the anniversary events, and I am introduced to a minister, and then I'm introduced to one of these care people. Let's call them care people. And they go, oh, come and have a meeting and we'll talk to you and give you the information you need to go through this process at the Supreme Court. And so I send the emails off and I go in and I meet. All right, this is what you need to do. You need to do an RTI application, and these are the legal professionals that can help you do this, and to fill out this form. And we're gonna go through your adoption file and present you with your adoption information, all of the facts and the information about your adoption, your birth and blah, blah, blah. Oh, great. So you're going to scan through it.
Did they?
Oh, they did. So I go and I have my meeting. And again, this is one, when I say I don't talk about this, when I say that I don't speak about it, when I don't tell friends or I don't announce myself as what happened to me, this is a really big moment in my life. I'm going to sit with somebody who knows my history. They know it from pieces of paper, not from my lived experience.
Yeah.
It is very raw, very emotional. No one knows about me, other than not even on one hand, the people I was...
The sprinkling that you shared.
Not even. My mum doesn't know...
Because you were taken from...
Yeah, about... Other than what she knows about this. So this is a super important moment. And I sit there and we go through, and she shows me photos of me as a little baby. And we read through, this is how much you weighed, and this is the hospital, and this is the time that you were born. My mum knew all of that stuff. So some of the stuff I knew because she filled me in. And this is the orphanage, I know that. And these are the people who adopted you. Oh, okay, I know that. And this is this, and this is these are some of the notes that the child, they handed me some of the documents about my birth and the number of child visits and blah, 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 blah. 1970, 1971, 1972. Nothing for 1973. Nothing for 1974. Oh, and maybe at one visit, and then your adoption was finalised in 1975. Your mother came... It does say in that adoption information document that my mother came back to try and get me, but they have no further records other than that initial meeting. So we don't have any more records on that. And we go through this whole process, and I'm crying and I feel very exposed and very raw, and this person's amazing. I'm like, oh my God, this is really important. She's helping me, and she's, and I tell her about a little bit about my childhood and how I tried to commit suicide and I tried to run away. And I don't tell her everything. I just give her a little bit as trying to protect myself. And then it comes to the end, and we go upstairs and we file for an RTI application, which is a right to information, and to get the information that I might need to build a case, because you have to build a case as to why you want the adoption discharge.
Right,
you can't just, as an adult, I can't put my hand up and say, yeah, I don't want that anymore. No. That's not a thing.
No, you can't.
So when I say that I have no agency over the decisions that others have made for me, I can't go, yeah, I don't want this. No, that's not enough. You have to go to a court and prove why you don't want it, and meet the certain criteria. That's a really important thing, is to meet the criteria. So, and I sit there at the end of this, we've gone upstairs and got the RTI, application. I fill it in, and I come down and I say, so how did the department choose the people...
$1 million question.
...who adopted me?
Yeah.
And this was the response back. Well, you weren't legally connected to them at the time, so that information is not yours to have. And I think... Oh, okay.
So
I just go,
gullible. Back
okay.
to you saying gullible before. Yep, okay.
I wasn't legally connected to them at the time.
Therefore, you're not entitled
to that information. That was the first time that I had heard, you're not entitled to that information. And I'm like, oh, I'm not entitled to that information.
Well, that must just be a thing.
That must be a thing.
Yeah.
That's privacy.
Okay.
And I leave. And I leave that meeting, and this is really important. I leave that meeting thinking, wow, her mental illness, her drug addiction, her bizarre
Psychosis,
behavior, all of
everything
the
else.
abuse, all of the kids running away, slipped through the net of the government. They'd had no idea. Because if they did,
Of course.
They
would
wouldn't
tell
have
me.
left you there.
and I wouldn't have been there.
You wouldn't have been
And
there.
they would tell me, I poured my heart out to this
Yes.
care person.
And they would have told you.
They would have told me, wouldn't they?
They? Yeah.
And so I left that day thinking, wow, I didn't know.
Okay.
And my mother and I went to the lawyer and, okay, I want to do this. And we actually had another meeting with the legal counsel for the department. And we went, I don't think we've got enough information. Oh, no, you've got enough information. And this is a lovely, fluffy bunny part. We're not challenging you. Oh,
We're
you're
going to
not
let
going
you
to
do
challenge
it.
me? Because, why would they? Of course, if you don't want to be adopted anymore, we're not going to challenge you. And
Right.
you've got more than enough information. We thought that was weird at the time. And we left thinking, all we heard when you're in those situations, when you get a cancer diagnosis,
Yep.
all you
You
hear
hear
is you
cancer.
can't.
Yeah.
Well, all we heard was what we wanted to hear
Yeah.
was, we're not challenging you.
You can have
you can
it.
do it.
You can do it.
We got what we wanted. Then I didn't know I was going to have to do a victim statement. And I found that really hard.
I'll bet.
Another super important person in my life was the lawyer who represented me. And and this set me up for a fail as well. So I went to a legal team that do a lot of work for community, and it's a very inexpensive service. I still had to pay money to have this adoption discharged. Not a great deal, but I still had to pay for it. And I had to do this victim statement. So they had a counsellor there to help me go through it. And they didn't want me to do it by myself. They wanted me to tell them what happened. And this is when I have to vomit up my childhood. And I start to go, and this happened, and then I would justify it, and my lawyer would go, no, you're a child. That shouldn't have happened to you. And then this happened, and then this happened. But I felt safe that, no, you were 10. That shouldn't have happened to you. And every time I justified my abuse, they go,
reminded you it wasn't your fault.
It's
Well,
so
just
good
like-
for that person
Yes.
to be
it
there
just
with you.
wasn't a thing. And because other people who have gone through abuse will know you justify it, and you take the shame
Yep,
yourself,
yep,
and
yep.
you do it's a coping mechanism.
Of course it is.
But I would keep going, and then this happened, and then it was a lot for them to hear.
Of course.
And I was more worried about them
Being upset.
hearing it than me.
Yep.
And for me, the physical and mental violence has had more of an impact on me. I don't drive a car today. I don't have my full driver's license because of the things that the woman who adopted me said about me driving. You're never going to get your license. You're too stupid.
Right.
I was also molested by the adult who was teaching me to drive.
Oh, yeah, you're primed for it.
So it's this weird thing. It's this other, and I will get past it. It's something that I am determined to do it. I've also lived in big cities where I didn't need to, and my partners have always driven, and but it's a thing. It's a product of my childhood, and I'd never got my license because how could I possibly, when I couldn't read or write, get my license
No.
at 16?
And be, yeah.
And when it's one of those rites of passage. If you don't get it then, it's harder
just-
to get
yeah.
later on.
What was the upshot of that victim impact statement?
So there we are. We're preparing this. We didn't think we have all the information. I do this victim impact statement. Why do I have to do a victim statement about saying I don't want to be adopted anymore? I want my mother and I to be legally connected. Why? Is that even a thing? And then I think, okay, maybe it's inheritance purposes. Maybe it's got to do with other factors other than the simple fact of I don't want to be adopted anymore. And I was the third person in Queensland to do it. And
Yeah, that's
I
significant,
laugh
isn't it?
when I say I was the youngest person to do it. But I said to my lawyer, when we do this, this has to be a roadmap for other people.
Yeah.
It's the first time that they had done it. So this was a roadmap. It names all of the things that happened in forced adoption without saying the words. Coercion, manipulation,
They won't say
undue
forced
influence. These are things that you can use as evidence to have the adoption discharged. All of the words are the forced adoption experience, but I don't know. And this is the toxic thing. Why is it up to the individual and not the state?
Exactly.
Why is the burden of proof to prove that you were coerced into giving up your child
On you.
burdened on my mother
Yeah.
and not the state to prove otherwise?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The contents of Michael's victim impact statement meant revisiting that dark chapter of his life in graphic detail, an ordeal that was shattering for his mother.
That day was the day that my mother heard about the abuse that
Oh,
happened to
wow.
me. That was the day that she realised that the perfect home that she was giving her child to,
Was anything
without
but.
her consent, was that.
Anything but perfect. So did you get your adoption overturned?
There's a fabulous loophole in the whole thing. It's called exceptional circumstances.
Oh.
It's a coverall.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is the we don't have to admit anything
Right.
Band-Aid. So mine was overturned for exceptional circumstances. A get out of jail free card.
So you came away from the court hearing legally your mother's son again, but with more questions than answers, and still no information to explain why you had been placed with that monster, because you were not entitled to that information. Is that right?
Well, the only way I can see that this happened is that whoever signed off on the adoption must have been under her spell.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sybil,
Yes.
Yeah.
Sally Field.
Yes.
So apparently split personality
Yes.
disorder. But she could turn it on
Yes.
and turn it off. Oh, could she
Okay.
turn it on and turn it off?
So she would have turned on the personality to the person that signed off the papers.
Oh no, I never knew who I was coming home to
Of
at
course,
school.
yeah.
I never knew what I was walking into.
Or who.
Or who. And then
So and so.
this split personality thing. I think, again, when I talked about at the beginning of this manipulation, her mental illness and her craziness was how she learnt to manipulate people in
Yeah.
situations, and it didn't work with me.
No,
For some reason, it didn't.
but it worked on everyone who made
Worked on
decisions for
everybody
you,
else.
didn't she?
It didn't, and that was the thing that was my problem. Is she knew I knew that she was.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And that's the reason why they ran to get you so quickly on the first night.
And she attempted suicide on a couple of
many
occasions, didn't
times.
she?
Yeah, she was in psych wards all through my childhood.
So that was a feature of your childhood too.
Basically, at the adoption or discharge, it was a really big day for my mum.
Huge. Yes.
I had been able to shield her, and I
Yeah.
said to her going into this, some stuff's going to come out that's going to be painful. She's like, I want you.
Oh, I want you back.
Let's do this. And I had to, we skirt around
Yeah.
on both sides
Yes.
our trauma to have a relationship.
Coming up, Michael reveals how his crusade for justice saw him embroiled in another court case, this time supporting other survivors who had also been abused in the government-funded home where he had grown up. Now, his adoptive mother was dead. The House of Horrors had been liquidated and the victims had applied for compensation under the government's National Redress Scheme. This is somebody's daughter, someone else's child. The Somebody's Daughter podcast. Thanks to Origins Australia, supporting people separated by adoption.
So the adoption discharge was something you supported because it was really what your mother wanted, right?
My mum wanted to be connected to me, so we did the adoption or
did that.
discharge. Yes, absolutely want to help her, and it's been good for both of us. But it's also opened a Pandora's box and a can of worms.
Certainly has.
I reconnected with the child from my childhood, the woman who adopted me as child, and the place that we'd grown up in was closing down and liquidating. And people had come forward and talked about the sexual abuse, and so they made a claim to any of the money from the sale of the properties and closing that organisation down. They would do this liquidation and people come forward. I didn't really want to do it, but it was important for this. They're not
no one.
they're not related to them legally anymore. And I haven't, we reconnected when I moved back to Sydney after being in London. She found me via Facebook
But you did that for her, though.
Yeah.
As part of the civil claim, Michael was shattered to hear other young victims describing him as the child who bore the brunt of his unstable adoptive mother's rage.
She said in her evidence that Michael was a nice, quiet, funny kid, and she, the adoptive mother, hated him. The worst of the physical abuses that I saw were reserved for poor Michael. It was horrible to hear her beat him. He was beaten so often that I think it is correct to describe Michael as beaten every other day. He surely got the worst of what she inflicted.
The lawyers who helped me do the adoption or discharge said you need to do a sexual abuse claim for this, and so I did. And to anybody who's doing that, it is the most toxic, vile,
terrible,
disgusting thing that you could ever put anybody through.
Yeah.
And the legislation or the law that they use is if I was run over by a forklift at work. I was not run over by a forklift at work. I was mentally and physically abused in every way possible throughout my entire childhood. Do not use the same framework as a personal injury to justify
it's
that.
Nowhere near, is
When
it?
I went to the psychiatrist, they said, "Do you have your X-rays?"
Oh my God.
Oh no. Unbelievable.
This is Australia, and this is what we have voted for, and this is where we are. When I say I've had an unwelcomed education, our access to justice, particularly for vulnerable people, is shameful. And this is a warning to anybody who thinks that if they get into an awkward situation, they have options. I promise you, you do not have options.
While Michael and the other victims settled their civil claim, his crusade from the truth was far from over. Told to return to the Department of Child Safety when his court cases had ended, Michael went back with more questions than ever. If the other children had known, who else knew what had been happening in that home? He continued to dig, and in 2023, more information came to light under his right to information, and what it revealed was very telling indeed. Among the heavily redacted documents available to him was an internal email stating that a departmental officer involved in Michael's case in 1973 had recommended that the then 3-year-old should remain with his carers on a foster basis only, rather than supporting his adoption. The grounds on which this recommendation were made were heavily redacted, though among the few that were mentioned was that Michael's social development was in doubt and that he was a poor mixer, who found it difficult to relate to other people due to the fact that the home environment was not suitable for bringing up children. The documents show that throughout the foster care period, the Director of Adoption Services continued to support fostering and defer Michael's adoption for the concerns raised above, most of which have been redacted.
Michael, it must have been very strange for you to not have any information about yourself whatsoever. What did you have? What information were you accessible to?
The only information I had when I originally approached the department in 2017 was my lived experience. Other than when I connected with my mother in the 1990s, was she able to shed light on her experience? And I knew about my experience. But other than that, I was relying on the department to furnish in the rest of the information. This is the first time I'd ever asked for my information. So it was a big deal. And the department met with me and said that they would dig into my file and prepare they call it a AI document. It's an adoption information document. And I in my mind, that's a legal document. That's a formal document that the government is giving to me that is a record of what they have about my birth and my fostering and my adoption. And as I sit here now, I know that document was not correct. It was missing a lot of information. I knew that at the time I was very gullible, not stupid, gullible, and very trusting, that they were there to help me. the department that's involved, and it actually has the word care in their name, and that sets you up for an expectation. When I eventually met with the adoption officer to get my information, it was very traumatic. I don't talk about this at that stage of my life. I didn't speak about my childhood unless someone really pressed me for it, and I certainly didn't share, the horrific nature of it. So sitting with someone who's looked through your file and read off, and I call that document now my fluffy adoption story, because what was presented to me was a very false narrative and very inconsistent information. And I cried, and I shared some of the experience that I had in the home. And at the end of it, I asked, how did the department choose the people who fostered and eventually adopted me? And I was told that information was not mine to have, because at that stage, I was not legally connected to them. No, I just took that on face value. And we walked upstairs to RTI to get what I could access with my adoption file, something like 390-something pages of information. And I left the office that day thinking that the woman who adopted me had slipped through the cracks and slipped through the detection systems of the department, regardless of the time period, 1970. People weren't stupid back then. People had access to paperwork and records. But I assumed these care people presented me with my information honestly and well thought out, and that I left there believing that she had slipped through the cracks, unidentified, undetected, and they weren't any wiser about the abuse. Very scary.
And do you think, Michael, that's one of the things that comes up with adoptees? I've been looking on all the different adoptee websites at what they're discussing and what their issues appear to be. And the commonality, apart from the fact that people need to know their medical history, want to try and find out who they are, that identity issues. Well, the other thing is the absence of information, the lack of information, or, in your case, redacted information. So you know that there's more information there, but you're not allowed to know anything about it.
And that's toxic. That is really vile and gross on so many levels that they would do that to people. If they've done that to me, I promise you they have done that to hundreds of people who have gone there, again, in a gullible, trusting situation and said, please, could you tell me about who I am? This is a human rights violation.
It is.
And the only reason they don't want to give you the information is because it doesn't benefit them.
Well, it doesn't make them look good, does it? Because they're the ones who have kept that. And the way you say file, can I look at my file? It's your life.
It's you, isn't it?
It's you.
My origin story.
It really is.
Yeah. And it's something that I had no prior knowledge to. So, an alien spaceship didn't land and I didn't come out of it. I was taken at birth from my mother and given to crazy, messed up people who destroyed my childhood. That's my origin story.
That's your story.
And, when people like Origins and other groups across Australia started to get their own power back and try to take agency. Agency is not possible in this experience. Back and force governments to acknowledge what had happened, and force religious organisations to acknowledge what had happened, and put pressure on for these apologies. Part of the process of the apology was greater access to records. That has not happened. And, this is post-apology harm. And the reason that they're withholding it, and even in Queensland, we now have a human rights. They've been very careful not to include any pathway for these previous, for people to. There's no pathways for people to action this or get their records. The legal profession in Australia is not interested, and it's very, very difficult. Imagine not having access to who you are. It's criminal.
And as you said earlier, when we were just discussing it earlier, What possible motive could they have? What could be so damning in a 50-plus-year-old adoption file that he can't know what happened?
My adoption file is a Pandora's box of problems for the government. Not just the Queensland government, but the federal government as well. Now, the home I was brought up in, because of my efforts, is now part of the fund. The government is now funder of last resort for that organisation. They were left out of the original proposal when the National Redress Scheme for Child Sexual Abuse, institutional child sexual abuse was formed. The Queensland government left out that organisation that I was raised in. Why? And now it is part of the funder of last resort. And the fact that they allowed this woman to continue for as long as they did, and as the RTI documents that I obtained in 2023 say, there was ministerial
That's what I was going to ask you.
Override in my adoption. So how long has this ministerial override been allowed this abuse to continue in that home? How far did the hand of power extend to provide protection for this woman? And what was the motivation for protecting this woman? What did she have on him? I have the original correspondence, not photocopies, not extras. I have in my possession the original correspondence sent from the Department of Child Services director to this minister, confirming their personal recommendations for the woman who adopted me. Why would I have those?
Moyra, in the documents that Michael obtained under right to information, it does show that the department were not supporting the adoption, Michael's adoption by these people.
At the beginning?
Well, no, they said it needed to be postponed. They needed to review it later on because it was not a suitable environment for a child to be brought up in. They didn't say why. They may have said why in the redacted info, but from what I could see on the unredacted info, it just said it wasn't a suitable home for a child to be raised in. And then the more correspondence under the right to information show there was ministerial interference and intervention, and as a result of that, the adoption went through. It doesn't say why. It just says that the adoption finally went through after this intervention by the minister. Was it the Minister for Health? The Minister for Health at the time, who's no longer with us. But it just begs a lot of questions.
So many.
Every legislation and bureaucratic setup, the one thing that they kept saying to me, it's not in the public interest to release that information to me. Well, the public doesn't care.
No, it's not for the public.
Whose interest is it?
It's not for the public. It's for you.
It's not in the interest
your
of
story.
the
It's your
government
information
to release to me. So yes, they have a Pandora's box of problems. It's not just me. It's not just a simple adoption file.
No,
it's
not
a
just
forced
one.
adoption file. It's this woman that they gave me to ran a home for decades and abused hundreds of children, and they have that on their hands as well.
The fight for the truth continues as Michael explores other avenues to fill in the missing gaps of his adoption file.
It's been a 10-year journey, and even just to find someone to represent me. Like I say,
hard.
I reached out to 170 legal professionals and organisations to try and find someone who would
Represent you.
Assist you.
So when they say we have access to justice in Australia,
Not really.
not unless you are standing on a hill, patting your tummy and rubbing your head at the same time on a Wednesday and fit the criteria that organisation needs for you to do. When they talk about human rights, when we talk about oversight bodies, they do not assist you. They have no teeth. They have no real... The only place we have left, the only place I have left is the courts. And even that, they are public servants.
Yes, they are.
Oh,
Michael, it's a really sobering story. It's a harrowing story. Michael is now taking his fight to expose the full truth behind his adoption to the Commission of Inquiry into Queensland's child safety system, which has received almost 1,000 submissions, highlighting systemic failures, many of them from people like Michael, who as vulnerable youngsters were placed in out-of-home care by the government. CEO of Origins Lily Arthur has also submitted a 93-page submission to the Commission, which is due to begin a series of public hearings in the very near future.
The forced adoption community is trapped in a web of secrets and lies and shame. And I am adopted, but I'm also part of the forced adoption experience. And the thing I think that's working against me is I was put into a home that this woman ran. The only reason that home is now part of the child commission, the redress scheme, is because I reached out to the Department of Social Services and said, why is this home not included? It was funded by the government. Why is this home not included? I believe it was only my advocacy to include that home because they had conveniently left it out of the group. And I've made a lot of noise about it. Now that home is part of the group. Good. So if I succeed in accessing more information, it's not just me that can come forward. It's all the other people at that home.
Went through it.
Because they knew what was going on. Allegations, investigations, and no one did anything. No one did anything because somebody else was protecting.
Yes. Thank you so much
Michael,
for sharing. That's a huge story to share.
It's more. There's more to it.
I can only be terrified to know. I just want to say though, when we started and you said I'm nothing, I think you're the biggest not nothing I've ever met in my entire life. What you've gone through and but the fact that you were always looking out for other people, that's what I find the most fascinating about you, that you said you wanted the lawyer to have a way in which to help other people. You helped your sister, the other person in the house. You're helping other people now as well. You're an amazing person.
I don't know if it's amazing. It's just I grew up in Australia where of mateship. I grew up in Australia where we look out for each other, and that was drilled into me. My Catholic education, you do good for others, not because I hate that idea of paying it forward. I don't want anything back. I'm doing it because it's the right thing
to do. Because it was the wrong thing that happened to you.
There was that movie years ago, Paying It Forward, in that book. I'm like, I don't expect it back.
No.
You just do it. But for whoever, that could be my situation.
Yes.
And I'm lucky I have the strength and wherewithal to carry on. They don't know what to do with me. All of the nasty, horrible, bureaucratic tricks that they usually use to wear us down hasn't worked with me. I am that kid in school holding my hand up going, Miss, excuse me. They don't know, but they don't know what to do with Lily.
No, they don't know what to do with people who challenge the system.
Who still have that little fire inside of them.
That little light you described. Thank you so much for sharing that, Michael.
Thank you so much. If you would like any more information about any of the issues raised in this podcast or have an experience that you would like to share, contact Origins Australia on 0756 27 0565 or 0414 959 239. Or check out the website originsaustralia.org. For immediate support 24 hours a day, call Lifeline on 13 11 14.